Hi, welcome to post-grad seM.A.ntics. I'm Caitlin, and this is Emi, and today we'll be interviewing Christy. She's a PhD student at Fordham University studying English, and she also writes creative nonfiction, which is what we'll be talking about today. So Christy sent us a nonfiction article or a piece that she had written, and we kind of read it and we thought we would talk about it, and maybe if Christy approves, we can post it a little bit later so you guys can read it too and kind of follow along.
Oh, absolutely.
But the piece is titled Snakes, and it's all about, well, I guess you can tell us, Christy, what made you decide to write about that?
So first, it's about my experience growing up in a really rural setting. So in the country first, and then moving to a very small town in Kansas. And on the superficial level, I talk about my experience with snakes on my parents' farm, and then kind of snake imagery and how it relates to religion later on in my life, through a I guess like religious conversion experience almost, but at a really young age. But I guess I started out writing this piece because I've always just been really afraid of snakes. So there's been a lot of kind of emotion surrounding like any experience that I have with actual snakes and kind of snake imagery in religion or in literature or anything like that. It's always been something that's been pretty powerful for me. But when I started putting this together, I just kind of wrote about very like traumatic, memorable experiences with snakes. And how they kind of influenced me as a little kid. But then in doing that, as I was writing about these little snapshot moments of kind of experiencing snakes, or like seeing snakes in the garage, seeing snakes kind of different places on my parents' farm, what kept coming to light then within my encounters with snakes was my relationship with my mother, and how she dealt with my kind of fear of snakes and my I guess my encounters with them then. So kind of through me talking about these few snapshots with snakes, I talk about my relationship with my mother and how she is this very powerful, independent Midwestern woman.
So yeah, I was going to ask kind of a question about nonfiction, I guess, which is going to be really broad. But I'm a fiction person, so I only took one nonfiction class at K-State, which was a great experience because Elizabeth Dodd is amazing, and nonfiction is really amazing too. But when you decide you want to write about something, even if it is something personal from your life, you don't always have to express it through nonfiction. I mean, you can write fiction, you can write poetry, you can write some weird hybrid of different genres, and even within nonfiction, there's a ton of different ways to approach, something that actually happened in your life. So I'm curious, like, why you love nonfiction so much, or why you chose it, and why maybe you choose, like, the way you do write.
I took the nonfiction class with Elizabeth Dodd and kind of fell in love with just the idea of creative nonfiction. And I think for me, at least, it's that idea of not letting my life, I guess, like slip away altogether, which is, I don't know what that says about me, but I think that idea of like capturing a specific moment, and not just then communicating a snapshot of something that happened, kind of sticking them together into some kind of montage. But I think for me, when I'm capturing these moments, reflecting on them through the piece, it's to kind of make this like, almost like living, breathing, kind of movement that connects like things that have happened to me in the past, to, kind of people's future experiences with them. And then at the same time, the beauty of creative nonfiction, as you're writing, you're kind of creating a new present then too, or like shedding new insights on what has happened in the past, and then the way that you'll communicate that to people, in the future.
I'm always still just terrified to write nonfiction. I don't know, I've been looking at a lot of online websites like Hello Giggles or theconversation.tv, and all of the people who write articles there rely very heavily on their own experiences, and it's almost like I'm afraid to share so much of myself and then have that down on the public record.
Yeah. No, and that's something that I still I still feel like I'm dealing with in two ways. So now, when I go on the job market or if I'm applying for, for positions that way, if somebody Googles my name, they'll find all of these things. Well, hopefully when I'm a very prolific and published nonfiction writer, it's really blah. But there are all of these, kind of very intimate, moments of my life that are shared that, wouldn't come up in a job interview, definitely.
Right.
And then it exposes a lot about your identity, about your own, understanding of self and, in ways that, could be scary or could be dangerous. And then another problem that I feel like I've been having lately, or another concern, is writing about my mother and my family, because it's labeled as nonfiction, and it is nonfiction. But now, if people I know read my pieces and they know my parents, or if my parents read these pieces, then it's a window into my relationships with them and my own kind of understanding of them that could be really potentially could be damaging. For this piece is more of a celebration of my mother, so I don't feel like this one kind of fits into that, but it makes me much more wary about kind of negative things that I would write about people, because there are real people who those experiences correspond with. I think before we were talking a little bit about place and kind of how that plays into identity, and specifically through nonfiction. And I guess really briefly, I moved here from Kansas to technically I live in New Jersey, but I go to school in New York City. So I guess generally I've had to think a lot more about how to write about place and how to write about certain kind of shared cultural ideas that were kind of more universal in Kansas, I guess, that aren't necessarily true here. I think so not in this piece, but in another piece that I wrote about a relationship with my ex. I was talking about trampling down a patch of grass, and I called it Big Blue Stem, which is a type of prairie grass in Kansas that I assumed that the other people knew about, or kind of at least knew what it was. And it's just kind of a tall, ugly grass that is very trampable and whatever. But then when I wrote about it here, people interpreted that as a flower. So then the idea in that piece was me stomping out a flower in order to start a fire on top of it. But in reality, it was kind of punching down ugly grass. But other people read it as kind of tramping down a beautiful flower. So I don't know. I feel like there are things like that. That kind of significantly changed the tenor, I guess, of the relationship, and just without a small detail that was affected by place. I feel like a lot of the nonfiction that I read is not situated in any kind of rural area, or specifically the Midwest. I feel like there's some more rural Southern writing, but not a ton in the Midwest. So I'm trying to represent that.
And it seems like Midwesterners suffer from this feeling of inadequacy, our region is the lamest region, because his book was a lot about that, how his relationship in the Midwest, and he wanted to get out of it when he was younger, and eventually made these connections. And Jenna, when she would write nonfiction in our class, a lot of it was her struggling with wanting to leave the Midwest and never feeling like it was, I don't know, cool enough. That seems to be what.
No, I definitely feel like that's something that comes up, especially me being here now. The way that people read the Midwest is definitely not my experience with the Midwest. I mean, there are really atrocious politics, and to me, some religious resonances that can be really damaging, and but usually those are what come to the forefront of people's minds when they think about Kansas. But for me, I feel like that's shaped so much about who I am now. So I'm from the Midwest. That means I'm nice. I know how to work really hard. I care about other people. Generally, I'm pretty humble now that I'm bragging about myself right now from being from the Midwest. But I think Well, thank you. Yeah, but I think that idea of like trusting people, and then just being, self-sufficient are, really awesome benefits of being from the Midwest, and an appreciation of nature, which I know isn't true of everyone, but I feel like that's something, for me that, is different, at least from the people or the friends that I have, in the city now. Yeah, definitely not just the land in the Wizard of Oz or Sam Brownbacks, like army of Kansans. Yeah, there's a lot more to it than that. So.
Well, thanks for coming on, Christy. It was great to talk to you about nonfiction, and we love reading your writing.